What does it look like to be part of the solution? Why do we do things that are part of our existential problems, even if we know better? And finally, how do we spark personal change when these problems lack sense of urgency and are much bigger than ourselves? Today, I want to share an idea that might change your life. Too often, we forget that we are all human, guided to a large part by our emotions. A decade ago, my passion and curiosity for sports cars step by step changed my view on the challenges in the world. It took a positive and emotional spark to change and see opportunity where others see threat, uncertainty, or the system's responsibility. An electric sports car, combined with an inspiring story, was ironically part of the solution. Today, after many years on the electric side of the automotive industry, I upcycle and electrify classic sports cars, and I tell silent stories that work magic in driving positive change. Now, let us work our way there together and start with my old self. Imagine it's Friday in the afternoon, we leave work, jump into the car, and once we're out of traffic, the fuel lamp goes on. So, obviously, we stop at the fuel station, the smell of gasoline is in the air, and we fill up the car. Now, would you agree that deep down inside, we all know that the gas we buy has led to global conflict, and that burning it is probably part of the problem? Anyways, let's ignore it and drive on. Now, on the radio, we hear that the weather forecast for the weekend looks fairly well. So, we stop by at the grocery store, go to the meat section, and as soon as we see all these juicy steaks up there, we already imagine ourselves at the barbecue with the taste of animal proteins in the air. Now, would you agree that deep down inside, we all know that the steak we buy has been part of a living animal, that this animal has probably not lived the life promised to us in the commercials, and its mass production is probably part of the problem too. Now, we ignore that as well and drive on. Next thing we know is we find ourselves in a traffic jam. Why? Because some activists have decided to stick themselves to the road. Now, would you agree that deep down inside, we all know that while they might have a point, what they do will probably even delay the positive change? We ignore that as well, and we enjoy our barbecue weekend. That's how I lived a very good life, ignoring our existential problems. These problems were just much bigger than myself, so obviously someone else would have to fix the system for me, right? Let us go back a decade or two in time. Deep down inside, I knew that I was part of the problem, especially with my love for the sports cars built in Stuttgart, Zuffenhausen. You know which one. Now, these problems were just much bigger than myself, too far away, and not top of mind enough. Then, in 2008, a company from California started to build a small, lightweight, electric sports car that uses energy really efficiently. For those who don't know, the Tesla Roadster is a convertible, two-seater electric sports car that's expensive, badly built. Yeah, it offers quite zero comfort to its passengers. So, other than my wife, I was hooked immediately. And as soon as I was able to, I went down the road of debt to buy this car. It was blind love at first sight, and I successfully ignored all the risks and downsides of owning a car that was much too expensive for me and, at best, a prototype. The Porsche 911 has been my childhood dream, and without any doubt, it's the much better car. But when it comes to cars, and pretty much anything else, it's so much more about the story than it is about the product. Nothing came close to making me as happy as I was driving it or talking about it in the many discussions started by this little electric sports car. The Tesla Roadster became my personal time capsule. If I live in the present, then everybody else lives in the past. That's how Bertrand Piccard felt flying around the world in his solar airplane. And it's exactly the way I felt driving around in my little electric sports car. Do you remember my passivity on the problems in the world? The electric car sparked profound change, and it opened my eyes every time I charged its batteries. It became the only emotional clean tech product in the world. My passion for sports cars, combined with an inspiring story, could now be part of the solution. Why? Because we're all human. And to drive personal change, we have to tell a story that appeals to our positive emotions. So, I started to follow my passion. I started to build cars and tell silent stories that appeal to our emotions. Getting started was the most important part. To me, it was the beginning of a process with many adventures, setbacks, and learnings along the way. In the corporate world, one of my adventures was to turn the largest automotive player in Switzerland to electric. It was a great challenge, and I learned a lot about driving change in a corporate culture. I still remember one of my, well, let's call it first experiments, giving every employee the opportunity to drive electric for a full week at zero cost. Why? Because we're all human. And I knew that a first-hand experience with an electric car would work magic in driving change. It was such a success that the booking solution broke down immediately. And hundreds of test drives later, the unknown threat had become the solution. The people in the company won it. Now, my passion for electrifying and upcycling classic sports cars turned out to be a little bit more complicated. I still remember, and that was about 2 years ago, washing one of our prototype cars, and I realized that the car was just not good enough for our mission. But do you remember what I learned from automotive sales? Right. It's so much more about the story than it is about the product. The story was already strong enough to open doors to individuals that I would have otherwise never met. Now, I must emphasize that listening is so important to driving change. My co-founder is the most curious listener and interviewer that I know, and I learned a lot from him. So, with my newly found listening skills, I learned a lot from these inspiring individuals about their motivations to buy and sometimes sell vast collections of cars, about their ideals, and about their vision of the future. I learned that the way the world was going did not make sense anymore. Noise had become more important than substance. So, the concept of silence was born, because silence, after all, helps you to listen and change. Silent sports cars open doors, and silent stories work magic in driving positive change. Why? Because we're all human. And to drive change, we have to tell a story that appeals to our emotions. I am personally worried about the direction we as a society are headed. All the noise, the passivity and accusations, the increasingly extreme positions, playing woke Western games and not being useful, are just not part of the solution. On the other hand, we are all human, and deep down inside, we all want to be loved and part of the solution. Be it in our personal or professional lives, small or big changes, they all matter. My journey has taught me valuable lessons that I want to share with you for your journeys or your adventures. First, we are all human. To drive positive change, we have to tell a story that appeals to our emotions. Second, an opportunity is so much stronger than demonization or prohibitions will ever be. Third, the most powerful solutions lie in the many shades of gray, no, not the movie, and not in these extreme positions. And first, we are all human. First-hand experiences of being part of the solution are so much stronger than thousands of words or PowerPoint slides will ever be. Opportunity is everywhere, and silence will help you to listen and change. Because don't forget, we are all human. And deep down inside, we all want to be loved and part of the solution. Thank you.